Dr. Ilara Voss adjusted her cloaking field as she crouched behind a massive Douglas fir, her navy blue fingers trembling slightly as she calibrated her observation scanner. The blonde hair she'd pulled into a practical braid swayed as she leaned forward. Amber eyes widening at the sight below. Captain Harlan Reed moved through the wilderness like a predator, economical, precise, deadly efficient. Silver hair caught the afternoon sunlight as he knelt beside a creek, his weathered hands setting a fish trap with practiced ease. Even from 50 meters away, Ilara's enhanced hearing picked up his low humming, some ancient earth melody that made her chest feel oddly tight. Subject demonstrates superior spatial awareness and resource management, she whispered into her recorder, trying to maintain scientific detachment. Physical specimen exhibits peak conditioning despite advanced age for human standards. She'd been observing him for 3 days now, and her initial academic interest had evolved into something far more complicated. The way he split wood with those powerful shoulders. How he navigated the forest without disturbing the ecosystem. The quiet confidence in every movement, it all triggered responses in her. Xantharan physiology that her xenobiology training hadn't prepared her for. Harlan suddenly stood, head tilting as if sensing something. Ilara froze, holding her breath. His steel-gray eyes scanned the tree line and for one heart-stopping moment seemed to look directly at her hiding spot. A slight smile played at the corner of his lips before he returned to his work. He knows. Ilara realized with a thrill of excitement and fear. He knows something's watching him. That evening, she watched from her elevated position as he built a fire with maddening competence. The orange glow illuminated his strong jaw, the weathered lines around his eyes that spoke of decades of experience. When he removed his flannel shirt to wash at the creek, revealing a torso still muscled despite his years, Ilara felt her navy blue skin flush darker with what her people called keshara, the breeding heat. "This is inappropriate," she muttered, forcing herself to look away. "I'm a scientist. He's a research subject. I should maintain professional boundaries." But her eyes betrayed her, drawn back to watch him settle onto his porch with a book, reading glasses perched on his nose. The domesticity mixed with raw masculinity created a cocktail her alien brain found. Intoxicating. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Harlan looked up at the darkening sky, then directly toward her position again. This time, he definitely smiled, knowing, amused, inviting. Ilara's scanner beeped an atmospheric warning. Storm approaching. Severe. She should return to her concealed ship immediately. Instead, she found herself moving closer to his cabin, drawn by something far more powerful than scientific curiosity. The first drops of rain began to fall as she stepped into the clearing, her cloaking field flickering in the electrical interference, and Harlan Reed stood waiting, arms crossed, that infuriating smile still playing on his lips. "You planning to stand in the rain all night, or are you coming inside?" Harlan's voice was deeper than it sounded through her scanners, rich, textured, with an undercurrent of amusement that made Ilara's knees weak. She deactivated her cloaking field completely, standing in the downpour as he got his first real look at her. His gray eyes widened slightly, the only sign of surprise he allowed himself as he took in her navy blue skin, the blonde hair now plastered to her shoulders, the distinctly non-human proportions of her frame. I'm a xenobiologist," she stammered, hating how her usual eloquence deserted her. "From Xanthara. I've been observing human survivalist behavior for my research." Harlan leaned against his doorframe, completely unbothered by her alien appearance. "And how's that working out for you, Doc?" Lightning cracked across the sky. Ilara flinched, and in that moment of distraction, the world exploded into motion. A wall of water roared down the nearby hillside flash flood. Her mind registered barreling directly toward her position. Harlan moved with startling speed for a man his age. Strong arms wrapped around her waist, yanking her against a solid chest as he dove toward higher ground. They rolled together through mud and debris, his body shielding hers from the worst of it. When they finally stopped, Alara found herself pinned beneath him, their faces inches apart. "You hurt?" he asked, voice rough with exertion. She couldn't speak. This close, his scent overwhelmed her enhanced senses, pine, wood smoke, something uniquely him that made her Zentharan biology sing with recognition. Her skin flushed deeper navy, a telltale sign of arousal that she couldn't control. Harlan noticed. His eyes darkened with understanding and something that looked dangerously like reciprocal interest. "Fascinating physiological response," he murmured, deliberately echoing her scientific terminology. "Your skin changes color when you're aroused. What else does it do?" "Captain Reed, Her protest died as his thumb brushed her cheek, calloused and gentle simultaneously. "Harlan," he corrected. "And you've been watching me for 3 days, Alara. I figure we're past formalities. You knew my name? Found your scanner yesterday. Ran a diagnostic. Very impressive tech." He shifted his weight, and she felt every hard plane of his body against hers. "Question is, were you just studying human survival tactics, or was there something else keeping you coming back?" The rain pounded around them. Ilara's scientific mind cataloged everything: his elevated heart rate, the dilation of his pupils, the pheromones that her sensors would have identified as human arousal markers. But the woman in her, the one currently pinned beneath this silver-haired predator, only cared about one thing. "Something else," she whispered. "Definitely something else." Harlan's smile turned wolfish. "Good. Let's get you inside before you catch your death. Then you can tell me all about this research of yours." Inside Harlan's cabin, Ilara sat wrapped in a wool blanket while her alien biosynthetic suit dried by the fire. She should have felt vulnerable, exposed, but instead, watching Harlan move around his space with easy confidence, she felt safer than she had since leaving Zenthara. "Coffee?" He held up a battered pot. "Or do you blue-skinned beauties drink something else?" "Coffee's fine," she managed, charmed by how effortlessly he'd adapted to having an extraterrestrial in his home. "How are you so calm about this?" Harlan poured 2 cups, settling into the chair across from her. "Spent 20 years in Special Forces, Doc. Did things and saw things that'd make your hair curl well curlier." His eyes lingered on her blonde locks with open appreciation. "An attractive alien scientist who's been watching me chop wood doesn't even crack my top 10 weird encounters." "Attractive?" The word escaped before she could stop it. "Gorgeous," he corrected, meeting her gaze directly. "The navy blue skin? The gold eyes? The way you move like you're dancing even when you're just walking?" He took a sip of coffee. "I'd have to be dead not to notice, and I'm very much alive." Ilara's hands trembled around her cup. "On Zenthara, we value intellectual compatibility, efficient genetic matching, logical partner selection based on comprehensive biological profiles." Sounds boring as hell. It is. The admission burst out with surprising vehemence. "It's sterile and calculated and completely devoid of the passion I've observed in human mating rituals. The way you live completely in the moment, making decisions based on instinct and desire rather than optimization algorithms." She set down her cup, leaning forward. "Do you know how intoxicating that is to someone raised in a society that's regulated emotion out of reproduction?" Harlan's expression shifted, something heated replacing the casual amusement. "So this research of yours was supposed to be about survival strategies." Ilara interrupted, her scientist's honesty demanding the truth. "But then I watched you, and I couldn't look away. The competence, the strength, the quiet confidence." Her navy blue skin deepened to almost purple. "Your genetic profile is extraordinary, Harlan. Peak physical condition, high intelligence, emotional stability, demonstrated survival capabilities. In Xantheran terms, you'd be classified as an apex breeding candidate. Is that right? He stood, moving toward her with predatory grace. And what do you want to do about that classification, Dr. Voss? She rose to meet him, blanket falling away. Something completely unscientific. Something my culture would consider reckless and emotion-driven and biologically inefficient. Yeah? He was close now, close enough that she could feel his body heat. What's that? Elara looked up into those steel-gray eyes, seeing her own desire reflected back. I want you to kiss me. I want to understand why humans value passion over logic. I want. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. I want to see if the reality matches 3 days of fantasies. Harlan cupped her face, thumb tracing her navy blue cheekbone. Darlin', I'm about to exceed every fantasy you've ever had. When Harlan's lips met hers, Elara understood why humans wrote poetry about kissing. Her Xantheran physiology exploded with sensations her academic training had never prepared her for. His mouth was warm, demanding, skilled in ways that made her previous clinical understanding of human sexuality seem laughably incomplete. When his tongue swept against hers, she gasped, and he swallowed the sound with a low groan that vibrated through her entire body. God, you taste like starlight and electricity, he murmured against her lips, then captured her mouth again before she could form a coherent response. Her hands found his shoulders, those shoulders she'd watched, splitting wood and building shelters, and discovered they were even more muscular than her scanners had indicated. He lifted her effortlessly, settling her onto his kitchen table, stepping between her thighs with an ease that suggested significant experience. Is this, she could barely speak, is this normal for human courtship? Harlan pulled back slightly, eyes dark with desire but still focused enough to check in. Is this okay? Because we can slow down if... No. She grabbed his flannel shirt, pulling him back. I mean, yes, it's more than okay. I need to know if what I'm feeling is standard biological response or something specific to you. His smile was pure male satisfaction. Why don't we find out? He kissed down her neck, finding spots that made her back arch and her skin shimmer with bioluminescent patterns she didn't know she could produce. His weathered hands mapped her body with the same attention to detail he applied to reading forest signs, learning what made her gasp, what made her moan, what made her navy blue skin flush almost black with arousal. Harlan, she breathed, running her fingers through his silver hair. In Xantheran breeding protocols, partners are matched based on genetic compatibility scores, hormonal synchronization, and projected offspring optimization. Aha! He nipped at her collarbone, and she forgot what point she was trying to make. But this, what we're doing, there's no logic to it. No optimization, just... She tilted his face up to meet her eyes. Just this overwhelming need to be close to you, to touch you, to mate with me, he finished, voice rough with want. You can say it, Elara. I know what you want. Question is, are you ready to admit it? The scientific part of her brain, the part that had won 3 galactic research awards, screamed that this was reckless, that she should collect her data and return to her ship and file this under interesting anthropological observations, but the woman in her, the one currently wrapped around a silver-haired human who kissed like sin itself, had different ideas. Your species' potential is wasted, she whispered. The forbidden thought she'd been suppressing for 3 days finally breaking free. If men like you don't pass on those perfect genes, you should be breeding. You should be... Harlan's kiss cut off her words. Deep and possessive and absolutely perfect. Keep talking like that, Doc. And we're going to make some very interesting test subjects. Later, much later, they lay tangled in Harlan's bed. The storm outside reduced to gentle rain against the cabin roof. Elara traced patterns on his chest, marveling at the contradiction of weathered skin over still powerful muscle. "My colleagues would be horrified," she murmured. "Fraternizing with a research subject. Allowing emotional attachment to compromise scientific objectivity. Engaging in unscheduled reproductive behavior with an alien species." Harlan's hand traced lazy circles on her navy blue shoulder. "And how do you feel about it?" Elara propped herself up on his chest, blonde hair falling like a curtain around them. "Like I've discovered something far more valuable than any research data. Like maybe your human concept of following passion over logic has merit after all." High praise from a xenobiologist. "I'm serious." She cupped his face, overwhelmed by feelings she had no Xantheran terminology for. "On my planet, we've optimized ourselves into sterility. We calculate and measure and analyze, but we've forgotten how to feel. How to want something just because it makes us happy." Her thumb brushed his lips. "You make me happy, Harlan Reed. You make me want to abandon a decade of research protocols and just stay." His expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering behind those steel-gray eyes. "How long were you planning to observe Earth?" 6 months. "I'm only 3 weeks in. And after that?" "Return to Xanthara. File my findings. Accept a prestigious university position analyzing primitive survival cultures." She kissed him softly. "Spend the rest of my very long life wondering what might have happened if I'd been brave enough to choose passion over protocol." Harlan sat up, keeping her cradled against him. Or, hope flickered in her chest. "Or you could extend your research timeline. Study human mating rituals more intimately. See if this silver-haired survivalist is worth disrupting your whole career plan for." His smile was gentle, but his eyes blazed with intensity. "I know I'm older. I know I'm just some off-grid hermit. But Elara, I haven't felt this alive in years. You walked into my clearing with your blue skin and your science equipment and your terrible attempts at stealth. And suddenly everything feels possible again." Elara's eyes filled with tears, another human behavior she'd never understood until now. "You'd want that? You'd want me to stay?" "Darlin', I want to wake up every morning to that gorgeous face. I want to teach you fishing and tracking and all the things your scanners can't measure. I want to learn about Xanthara and see the stars through your eyes." He kissed her forehead. "And yeah, if you're still interested in breeding protocols, I'm more than happy to participate in extensive field research." Outside, the clouds parted, revealing a sky full of stars, the same stars that would eventually carry her home, or anchor her to this rugged planet and the man who taught her that some things couldn't be quantified. "Extensive research," she whispered against his lips. "I like the sound of that." The end.